I'm Philip Bluestein with the Bluestein Law Firm. We'd like to welcome you to our latest edition of our Facebook Live series, Business Insights Anyone Can Use. As I said, I'm Philip Bluestein with the Bluestein Law Firm. We help doctors build and protect their careers and practices, and we also assist them with asset protection and estate planning so they can protect themselves and their families. We're here today with Shelley Doan with Guarantee Bank, and Shelley's going to talk to us a little bit about the lending process for healthcare practices, physicians, dentists, what's involved, and some of important information for you about that. But first, I'd just like for Shelley, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself so our audience knows who you are.
Yeah, well, I'm Shelley Doan. I'm a healthcare lender for Guarantee Bank, and I've been in banking for about 20 years. The last 10 years of that have been really focused on the healthcare segment. The vast majority of my clients are dental practice owners or other medical practice owners. Prior to banking, I had some experience in entrepreneurship. That's kind of my formal training. And so I found that healthcare lending is a perfect marriage of that entrepreneurial background plus the clinical side of running a business like that, or running a practice like a business.
Great. So why don't we kind of just jump right into it? I think we talked about a couple of things that we can discuss in our short time here. Obviously, we can't cover everything there is to know about lending. But one of the things you had mentioned was mistakes that people make. Like what are the biggest mistakes that those practice owners are making when they're looking for a loan?
So the biggest thing that I see when you're a practice owner looking for a loan is not trusting the banker, seeing that banker as kind of the enemy. That person is your partner and invested in your success. So being completely transparent and sharing your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations, because a lot of times the bank can kind of custom tailor their offering, and maybe one small factor could have a huge impact on the loan. For example, if you're planning to sell your practice in the next 5 years, it's important that the bank know that and they can structure the loan accordingly so that you're not stuck with a big prepayment penalty.
Right. And I imagine that as a part of trusting the bankers, like it's really about developing that relationship, which is probably one of the things that you're able to do. Is maybe some of the big banks are not, the larger banks or national or international banks, maybe they're not as good necessarily as developing that relationship locally with a doc.
Yeah, and they tend to, there's a lot of great bankers out there that really want to help their clients succeed. There's just different cultures kind of going on in the background when you're working with the bank, and that's another important thing to understand is have a clear sense of what that banker's expertise is and what that bank's appetite is. You may look like a terrible borrower to one bank and be the dream borrower to another bank, and if you don't understand how that kind of works, it could go poorly or great depending on.
Right, and as I like to put it, you want to work with a bank that the people you're working with, they get it. You don't want, and I've seen this before where the banker says, well, that's a lot of money you're asking for. I think you really need to pay your dues. I've seen that before, and believe me, it doesn't reflect well on the bank when you've got a banker telling somebody who's spent many, many years in their education you really need to pay your dues.
Right, you've already done that. Yeah.
To a large extent.
Yeah. Especially in the healthcare segment, another huge factor is collateral. A lot of banks, if you don't understand how a medical practice works and you don't understand that cash flow cycle, you really don't have a good sense of what this practice is worth and what this doctor is worth.
Sure.
A lot of banks will say, well, I'm sorry, you need to borrow $1 million to buy a practice, but there's only $300,000 worth of collateral, so it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And that's why it's important to go with a bank that really understands.
Sure.
And has products kind of pre-designed for the medical practices, because if you don't understand how a medical practice works and how to assess the risk involved in lending to that practice, you're going to seem like a terrible risk.
And for your average dental practice or medical practice, at least from my experience, and maybe you can confirm this, the banks that do understand it, they realize that compared to other types of businesses, the risk, it's night and day on the risk interest. So like if you're opening a restaurant or something like that versus opening a dental practice, you don't hear about a lot of dental practices failing. They may, their success level depends on a lot of other things, but they're probably not going to go out of business if they have good advisors and the bank wants them to be successful as well, which is good. So if I'm a dentist and I'm looking to maybe do some refinancing, or I want to add on to, I want to do a new build out or something like that. What kind of steps would I take in terms of coming to the bank and getting a loan? What are just a few, again, we don't have time to discuss this forever, but what are some really key factors or steps that I should take?
Well, I'd say the most important factor is to have your numbers ready. Have a current profit and loss statement, have a current balance sheet ready,
Sure.
have the last couple tax returns ready, have a general sense. We as bankers understand that our clinicians aren't CPAs, they aren't financial experts. We get that, but we can't help if we don't know what we're working with.
Right.
So it's a much more productive conversation if you could come to the banker and say, here's what I'm looking to do, here's my numbers, does this make sense? Kind of on the fly, we can really get a good sense of if this is going to make sense for that borrower or
Sure.
not. Also, if this is something that kind of fits in with the underwriting parameters that the bank has already set forth. And you can leave that initial conversation having a pretty good sense of if this makes sense to move forward or not. If you have a first conversation that just starts out as what are your rates, that's really tough because rates change every day.
Right.
They're dependent on the risk factors involved. So that's really kind of the last conversation you want to have.
Exactly. And we see the same thing in the legal industry when people come to me and they'll say, okay, I want to buy a practice. How much is it going to cost me in legal fees? It's like, okay, that's a great question, but it depends. And it's often the first question people ask, but it's really the last one we can answer because there's a lot of things we have to figure out first, and then we can get a general sense of what those fees are going to be. And I'm sure it's exactly the same. So, are there any other key takeaways that you think people should be thinking about in our quote limited time here again? Maybe just important things for them to think about in terms of obtaining a loan or choosing a bank.
I think the most important thing really is to understand that banks and bankers in general, we love seeing our clients succeed.
Sure.
We are vested in their success. And it's just fun to work with somebody and to see them grow and to see them reach their goals and to be a part of that. That's personally really rewarding.
Sure.
And another part of that is building that relationship, getting to know that client. And it's important that you kind of like your banker.
I would hope, yeah.
You should kind of enjoy having lunch with them on a regular basis to chat with them and feel comfortable sharing things. And if you don't have kind of that personal rapport, it's really tough to take it to the next level and share your business success or to reach out to them. So it's you really want to work with somebody that you trust and that you like and that you kind of enjoy.
Sure.
That answers your phone. That when they have questions, you can go to them.
And I think that's a really important point that you just made. In case people didn't catch it, you said, "Oh, you want to have lunch with them." But the bigger point on that is really, it's not, "Oh, I go to the bank and I get a loan, and the only contact I have in the future now is writing a check to the bank." It should be more than that. Your banker is really the right way to do it, at least in my opinion. I think you would agree. Is that's a team member. Just like you have an attorney on your team and you have a CPA on your team, that banker needs to be part of the team. That's how you figure out how to succeed. And there are things that the banker can offer even after the loan has gone through. Maybe there's some changes that can be made. Maybe it can be refinanced for a better rate further down the road. Or maybe there are other opportunities or various things that the bank can assist with. So, and they can also help, if somebody's having a cash crunch or something like that. Okay, well, we did this, maybe we need a line of credit too, or maybe there's some other things we can do to work with you so that you can kind of pull yourself out of that cash crunch, which inevitably happens in any business. So great. Well, I see we're getting really close on time, and we want to respect and thank our viewers' time here. So once again, Philip Bluestein with the Bluestein Law Firm. We help we help physicians build and protect their careers and practices, and we're here with Shelley Doan with Guarantee Bank, who's given us some really great information to think about for our dentists or other healthcare professionals, physicians, etc., when they're obtaining loans. So thank you very much, and have a great day.